Did you know that back in 1966, Merriam-Webster defined muscle cars as a group of American-made two-door sports coupes with powerful engines designed for high-performance driving? OMG, you guys, this descriptor was like totally necessary to add to the dictionary. With the fierce competition between American car manufacturers, they're constantly launching powerful and amazing cars to a market that just obsessed with them. Can't get enough of it. Here are the 30 greatest muscle cars of all time, Part 1. Starting off at number 30, we have the 1969 Dodge Dart GTS 440. Early years of the 1960s saw the start of the full muscle car trend with a large engine from a larger automobile crammed under the hood of a mid-sized car. By the end of the decade, the 1969 Dodge Dart GTS 440 reveals how far manufacturers were ready to go with that concept, and how many safety and convenience concessions they were ready to make to get that muscle to the street. Among those muscle vehicles included in top 10 rankings, the normal Dart GTS is not among them, though most came with small block V8s, or maybe a 383, meaning they're elbowed out of the way by the nicer Hemi Chargers and Challengers in muscle retrospectives. It looks kind of square in both the literal and 1960s senses of the term. Chevy's Nova is a little opponent. At number 29, we have the 2017 Pontiac Trans Am Super Duty. While the 840 horsepower on 100 octane racing gasoline, 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Demon has been blazing on the internet. Another high-powered American muscle vehicle was also shown at the 2017 New York Auto Show. Trans Am Worldwide, located in Florida, showed this week the 1,000 horsepower Trans Am 455 Super Duty. There will be just 50-50 instances of the 455 Super Duty constructed. GM's Zeta chassis and the 5th generation Chevrolet Camaro drove prior Trans Am Worldwide vehicles. The new Trans Am 455 Super Duty is the first model developed around the 6th generation Camaro and the smaller Alpha chassis. Trans Am 455 Super Duty's power comes from a 455 cubic inch, 7.4 liter GM current generation VLT1 V8 engine, topped off with the Magnuson TVS 2300 supercharger providing 14 psi of boost, that is 0.5 psi less than the new Challenger SRT Demon. A cold air intake and ceramic coated header, and 3.0 inch exhaust powers 1,000 horsepower and 1,506 pound-feet, or 160 horsepower and 276 pound-feet more than the Demon on race gas, and 192 horsepower and 329 pound-feet more. Trans Am Worldwide claims the engine is developed in tandem with an unidentified prominent NASCAR engine manufacturer from Martinsville, Virginia. According to a quick Google search, it might originate from Arrington Performance, run by NASCAR racer and team owner Joey Arrington. Coming in at number 28, we have the 1968 Mercury Cyclone GT. Once more led by Ford, the Mercury guys changed their sinking Cyclone into a Torino clone as the 1968 to 1969 Mercury Cyclone GT arrived. Indeed, sales just nearly quadrupled. The 1967 total had dropped so low that even double that much wouldn't probably cause elation. The rakish, long-profile fastback 1968 Mercury Cyclone GT, with its large rear quarters stretching back in a straight line from the roof, received much of the focus. From headlight to tail, body side striping starting at the quarter window accentuates the GT edition's appearance of limitless length. Between GT wheel apertures, another stripe highlighted its elegant curves. Less dramatic, but nonetheless aesthetically beautiful, the formal roof notchback hardtop, also found in basic and Cyclone trim showered. Apparently though, it was not attractive enough as it would die out after 1968. While wheelbases remained at 116 inches, both models seemed to have more size. The notchback's rise measured 3 inches more than the fastback, thus it was not totally meaningless. Starting at $2,936, over $100 less than a 1967 GT hardtop, 1968 Mercury Cyclone GT models were priced. At number 27, we have the 1966 Chevy Biscayne. The Bs just start pouring out as soon as your retinas latch on Mike Peralt's 66 Biscayne. Perhaps its size as a large bullet of a B-body has something bearing on it. Maybe it's the completely vicious 540 big block that drives the Biscayne down the quarter mile in 11.36 seconds at 119 miles per hour. More importantly, the Biscayne's general performance is shockingly simple, complete with a blue bench seat and standard suspension. Mike's B-Body reasserts that a basic street stripe ride will always occupy a well-earned slot in the varied spectrum of hot rodding, in an era when the typical street machine is becoming increasingly sophisticated, with luxuries like EFI, ABS, and GPS which often necessitate funding a project car with IOUs. Here at number 26, we have the 1964 Dodge Pelora 500. Dodge's first try at a personal luxury automobile with performance overtones was the 1964 Pelora 500. Thus, in the late 50s and early 60s, it was the result of numerous strong forces at action. Some, the arrival of smaller automobiles and an unexpected need for bucket seats, affected the whole American automotive sector. Others matched the Chrysler Corporation uniquely. We should quickly look at this. Though there was all the fuzzy dice affection for the decade, the American automakers had a difficult last few years of the 50s. Following an 8 million car year record in 1955 and a second best 6 million car year in 1957, the sector suffered with the rest of the American economy in a brief but severe recession in 1958. At the same time, an unanticipated downturn in the medium-priced automobile industry wiped out Mercury, Nash, Hudson, Packard, and DeSoto. It made the Edsel Ford's intended medium-price introduction during the idyllic days of 1955 a marketing and financial disaster. At number 25, we have the 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado, Jay Leno edition. One strong realization comes when strolling around Jay Leno's business. Man, did I ever enter the wrong line of work. About 100 bikes, God knows how many toys, collectibles, oil cans, and other automotive memorabilia, million-dollar Bugattis and Duesenbergs fill one shop. Across the alley, and through another modest door, are two more cavernous rooms holding even more high-dollar four-wheeled cargo. When two excellent Hemi cars, a 70 Challenger and a 66 Coronet wedged over in the corner, that you ignore are two terrible Hemi vehicles, you know it's awful. The entertainment business pays nicely, really. Leno, however, drives his goods, hard and frequently, unlike most other show business collectors, and he keeps adding to the mix with both conventional and off-the-wall automobiles. The most recent endeavor is somewhat both. The 1966 Oldsmobile Toronado had stock versions with a 7.0-liter V8 with 365 horsepower. For Jay Leno, who fitted a massively modified aluminum twin-turbo 425 cubic inch V8, LS6 producing 1,070 horsepower, it was insufficient. He gave one such Olds the equivalent of automotive drugs. Though from the exterior this muscular Oldsmobile appears stock, it is really riding on a redesigned C5 Corvette chassis and suspension. And although Leno correctly chose to shove all the power to the rear axle of his modified monster, the original Toronado was front-wheel drive. This car at number 24 is something to look out for. We have the 1967 Mercury Cougar GT. Like its body and chassis, the 1967 Mercury Cougar took all three of its original V8 powertrains from the Mustang, and boy are they excellent. Matching three possible transmission options, a 3-speed or a 4-speed manual, or a snappy Mercle-matic 3-speed automatic, sent power to the rear wheels from the 4.7-liter dual-carbureted V8 base engine. Maximum power output of 200 horsepower was obtained from this engine. Buyers may choose to modify the base engine with a quad carburetor configuration instead of only two, raising output up to 225 horsepower, along with around 300 pound-feet of torque. While also able to reach the standing quarter mile in just a touch over 15 seconds, this arrangement can blast the 1967 Mercury Cougar from 0 to 60 miles per hour in as low as 7 seconds. At number 23, we have the 1969 Dodge Coronet Super B A12. Brute says nonchalantly that the 1969 Dodge Super B he is facing is an A12 variation. He does not, however, get into the specifics save to note its six-pack, 3 twin carburetors arrangement. Some Mopar enthusiasts might not know this unusual automobile. Originally introduced in February 1969, and with a 1969.5 classification, Dodge debuted the A12 series with a strong 440 cubic inch V8 instead of the 383 that would have been used for many Dodge Coronet muscle cars that year. But this was no standard 440. It came from the Dodge Coronet RT. Engineers fitted an Edelbrock aluminum intake in the 6-pack carburetor configuration, producing the A12 Super B 390 horsepower, above the 375 horsepower from the standard. A redesigned camshaft and stronger connecting rods are among internal improvements. We have the 1970 Oldsmobile 442 W30 convertible at number 22. Oldsmobile developed what would be the last variation on the 442 model in 1970. Reacting to new rules, the business developed its powerful 455 cubic inch V8 standard. More than enough to challenge rivals in the American muscle car rivalry, this massive engine generated 365 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. Adding a performance-calibrated 4-barrel carburetor, better air induction, a hotter camshaft, and a low-restriction exhaust system checked off the W30 option on the build sheet offered even more power. For the 442 W30, total stated output was about 370 horsepower. Finally, at number 21, we have the 1970 Ford Mustang Boss 429. Ford unveiled a new generation of Mustangs in 1969, improving their performance to match the mounting competition in the Pontiac sector, particularly in racing, where rivals presented a compelling argument for why consumers should pick their vehicles. The pressure from other manufacturers was getting even more acute. Designed especially to rival various Chrysler cars fitted with the 426 Hemi engine, especially those commanding NASCAR, including the Dodge Charger Daytona and Plymouth Superbird, the Ford Mustang Boss 429 was designed. With 26 out of 27 races in the 1969 NASCAR Grand National Division, the Mustang Boss 429 proved to be rather successful, same as its smaller brother, Boss 302. Despite rules meant to limit its engine airflow, the 1970 Ford Mustang Boss 429 maintained its winning run. This is so because, as you are going to see, the engine was only one of numerous elements influencing the performance of the Boss 429. For more interesting content similar to this, click for some car reviews and car histories. To keep the information coming, be a legend, and press the subscribe button before you go in anticipation of the next part of the video. Until then, my friend.